Our next and last keynote before the break comes from the leading company in smart healthcare. And of course, I'm talking about Philips. He will share practical lessons and examples on how Philips is harnessing the power of AI for the benefits of patients and medical staff. Ladies and gentlemen, Jörg Habetha.
Thank you very much, Remy. I'm really glad to be here. I will indeed talk about AI in Philips, but especially also how we are supporting AI development in the cloud with our Philips HealthSuite platform. You probably know that Philips evolved into a company which is fully focused on healthcare and personal health over the last years. And I'm personally surprised how quick the adoption of AI went and how much AI is currently already used in everything that Philips is doing, from providing deep insights for consumers into their own health to helping professionals in carrying out a better diagnosis and improving their workflows. My personal experience is that in the healthcare space, next to having access to data, it is also especially important to really have deep domain expertise, deep technical expertise when the algorithms, the AI algorithms are being built. And only in that way we can come to solutions that really empower the consumers and empower the patients. And we also, it was also mentioned before, want to come to solutions that adapt to the context in which these professionals and the patients are operating, and are also adapting to the workflows that these professionals are using in their day-to-day work. In order to come to superior healthcare solutions, and especially AI-enabled solutions, we have realized that we cannot do that alone. We really want to partner with all the stakeholders in the healthcare system, of course, our traditional partners, the hospitals, outpatient care organizations, but even our competitors or pharma companies. We want to gain insights from academia, latest innovations from startup companies. And in the AI space, it is very important to also create a digital ecosystem together with all of these stakeholders in order to combine the data and combine all the insights that all the participants in the healthcare system have. And this is actually the background why we created already several years ago our Philips HealthSuite platform. It is a cloud platform which is able to collect and aggregate data from consumers, but also from medical devices. And it's really built for healthcare. It's really taking away the burden for companies that are developing solutions on top of that platform to deal with the regulatory aspects, the regulatory controls that are needed in order to make their solution in the end compliant. And we have developed this together with partners, for example, Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud infrastructure provider. And we have developed a platform layer on top of the infrastructure layer, which is realizing a couple of services, software as a service. And it allows other companies, our own businesses, but also our partners and external companies to build their solutions on top of this platform. So it's really an open platform which can host software basically from any other party in that healthcare ecosystem. So the functions that we are supporting are, for example, connecting devices to the cloud. Devices in the home, but also sharing data with the hospital, for example, from the clinical medical records. We also have developed a layer to secure the platform. We have a security management system and have a role-based access control to really make sure that the data is secure and the privacy of the patients and the participants is preserved. Then, of course, the hosting environment is very important to host these third-party applications on top of the platform. And finally, what we will be talking about today in more detail is an area where we are supporting algorithm development and tooling for AI in the cloud. But before I come to that, I want to stress once again, so to say that in the healthcare space, it is really very important to guarantee the security of the data, the privacy of the information. And this is what is our kind of day-to-day business. We are operating this platform also for the clients 24/7. So it's really software as a service, which is always on. And we really make sure that everything is secure. And we have all the required certifications in order to prove that. Coming to AI. So in healthcare, as I said, there are specific requirements for AI. And we have developed our AI part of the platform really purpose-built for healthcare. One of the requirements is, for example, that you want to be able to trace how an algorithm has been developed. So that applies to which data has been used, which version of a library, a code library has been used, etc. And this is something that we want to guarantee with our platform. In addition, we want to also support with services the acquisition of data, for example, to then develop AI algorithms on top of the data. We have, for example, solutions to de-identify data because of privacy reasons. Data has to be given to data scientists in an anonymized fashion. These kind of things are all part of the platform. And because it's running in the cloud, it's very scalable, so we can support development of kind of very small algorithms to very large and very complex problems that need a lot of compute and data storage, and that is, of course, very scalable in the cloud. And finally, because it builds on top of that regulated platform, it is, of course, taking away a lot of the burden of the researcher to actually look into the regulatory controls that come with it. I wanted to give an example how AI development can be carried out with such a platform. So in our case, the data that you see on the left side here is typically coming out of the clinic, from the clinical medical records, the medical devices in the clinic. But it can also come from the users or patient's home, right? It could be sensor data from wearables, could be data from the mobile phone, so-called patient-reported outcomes, where patients respond to how they are doing. And as Philips, we have the advantage that we are very active in these environments. So we are a big player in the hospital, so we have gateways that connect to the electronic medical records in the hospital or to the medical image modalities in the hospital, and we can extract the data from there into the cloud. And similarly, for the home, we have an IoT solution to connect to a large variety of wearable devices and sensor devices in the market. And once the data is in the cloud, as I said, usually it should be checked whether the data scientist is allowed to do AI development with the data, so that is called consent. So the patient has to have agreed that the data is used for these scientific purposes. And then the data should be de-identified. For that, we have a de-identification service which can kind of automate the de-identification process. So if data from an image, for example, is coming in, it can automatically look for the text in the image, and it can automatically remove privacy-sensitive information. We also offer support for pre-processing the data. Typically, you want to clean the data and normalize data, and this is what we can do in a parallelized fashion in a distributed compute cluster. We call it the big data platform. And finally, the data is stored in the cloud, and in the AI space, we are using our clinical data lake store for that. This is a store which does not only store the raw data, but it's also extracting metadata during the storage of the data, during the ingestion of the data. And this metadata can then be used to actually search the data. So as a scientist, you can access the data lake and you can search and build data cohorts for the research and the AI model development. And for the latter, we then offer a couple of tools in the cloud. For example, Philips is, of course, a big player in medical imaging, so we have clinical viewers to annotate, for example, data from medical image data that can then be used as ground truth for the algorithm training. But we also offer AI tooling in order to develop the models and train the models, send training jobs to the cloud, etc. And once the model is ready and is validated on a new data set, the model can also be hosted in the cloud. That is what is referred to here as AI inference. And such a model, which is then kind of always on, can then be called from the operational environment, for example, in the hospital, in order to carry out a certain task, come to diagnostic support, improve a workflow, etc. I would like to give two use cases where we are currently applying this. One of them is actually from the region. That's why I wanted to choose this example. It's from the Eindhoven MedTech Innovation Center. This is a consortium of 3 care institutions in the region, Katharina, Maxima, and Kempenhagen, as well as the Technical University in Eindhoven and Philips. And these parties are carrying out joint research in the biomedical and medical field already for many years. And they were looking for a more structured approach in managing their data and especially being able to combine their data in order to come to new insights. So really an example of this ecosystem. And we have jointly with the consortium conceived a solution where on the one hand, each institution has their own possibility to carry out own research and own AI development. So we're delivering a data lake instance in the cloud for each of the institutions. Each of the institutions goes through that process of de-identifying the data, carrying out model development with the data. But we're also creating, or the consortium will create a foundation, which will be a trusted third party, where data can come together from multiple institutions. And the approach is that the central data lake, so to say, will not store all the data all the time, but the data will be ingested into the central data lake upon request of the data scientist. So data scientist has the possibility to search in a catalog for data, and then they can ask for access to the data with the institution, and if that is granted, the data is going to the central data lake and combined with data from the other institutions. And ultimately, the data then lands in a workspace in the cloud where the researchers can carry out their algorithm development. Last but not least, I would like to give one example where we are using our platform for pharma. Pharma companies, they typically have the challenge that they want to support their clinical trials, execution of clinical trials, and they're looking for an enterprise platform in order to do that, collect data, and then ultimately also do analytics on the data. And we have used our platform for a large company. Typically, as I said, we are not a solution provider, so we are really a cloud service provider, you could say. And we collaborated with a system integrator that was building that solution for the pharma company. But by using our services and our software, we got the feedback from the pharma company that we could accelerate their go-to-market with that solution by about 2 years, because they could, like in a Lego box, pick our components and build it into a solution that was purpose-built for them and also owned by them. And we are helping them with kind of operating the platform in the cloud. You can, of course, apply this example also to smaller companies, right? So we could also help, for example, startup companies. We are doing it also, startup companies with connecting their devices to the cloud and helping them to get to the market quicker. And that would also be my offer in the AI Innovation Center potential role we could play to act as an accelerator and maybe also as a place where people, but especially also data, can come together in the Innovation Center in a kind of virtual space next to the physical space we are in here today. With that, thank you very much. And back to you, Remy.
Yeah, thank you, Jörg. And how nice of you that you already are thinking about how you can contribute to the AI Innovation Center. That's a very good start of the first day. The interesting thing, of course, about working in AI at Philips, I can imagine, is that the end user don't want to know your solution. They just want a solution. They don't know. They don't want to know what's going on under the hood, basically. So you're building solutions.
Yeah, the professionals want to know very well how the solution is built, and even the regulators, right? So like for example, the FDA in the US, they really want to understand how an algorithm is working. So explainability is also there a very important topic, actually.
Yeah, explainability is an important topic indeed. And what do you think in the future? Philips has always been a hardware company, so you sell a product and maybe some services afterwards. But the data and the data management platform and the AI augmented intelligence, that can become a very big part of the business.
Absolutely, it is already. So the company has really evolved tremendously in that direction. Also, if you look here at the campus, we have our corporate research organization here with hundreds of researchers. And the profile of these researchers has changed significantly over the last 10 years. where we had in the past a lot of hardware-related activities. Nowadays, it's really the minority, and a lot of people are really working on data and solving problems with data and developing database solutions.
So cool, and it's amazing how this company keeps evolving. I can't wait to see where it's heading the next few years.